Hey everyone, it's Raghu back with Mindrolling, and I'm here with my good old Ojai compatriot Jaymee Carpenter.
It's pretty
Hi,
strange. Hi. We just had lunch, and then we went home to go be with each other again.
Yeah, a little weird, and I'll have to try and change my ways on that one.
Yeah.
So, how are we doing?
Good. It was funny. Just before we started this, I was thinking that, because you said you were ready to Zoom, you sent me the shot across the bow. It said ready for business. And I wrote you back, be right there. And I was like, I'm writing the be here now guy, be right there.
Copyright that, right away. Yeah, really. But one thing that has come up in the last couple of days that we wanted to share, and that was that, Jaymee told me about this, and this is about Trungpa Rinpoche, his wife. But why don't you tell because Jaymee does podcasts, Love is the author, and he did the last podcast with her, which I want to hear about as well. But tell us what happened.
Lady Diana Mukpo, I'm going to say it again. Lady Diana Mukpo passed away yesterday. So today we're recording this probably a week before this is going to be out. So she passed away on September 11th, which is an odd special day in this tradition also, in Maharaji lineage.
How about in history, September 11th?
right. Well, that gets enough coverage.
Our history,
Yeah. I was just thinking,
Neem Karoli Baba left on that particular day in 1973.
Right.
But in India, they don't celebrate it on the day, meaning they have a big feeding of people and chalisas are sung and so on and so forth. They do it by the moon. Everything there is done by the moon.
So we just had the full moon.
Yeah, so it was on Sunday, actually.
Right. So that'll mean that we would celebrate in the next moon coming up, so about a month from now.
Celebrate what?
The Mahasamadhi of Maharaji.
No, it happened.
Oh, so that full moon that we were under the other night was the one.
Close to the September 11th.
Wow. Oh, I didn't know it can happen ahead of time of the date. Time.
Time. In India.
It's made up.
That's how they do it.
Mm-hmm. So she passed away. I got word from Samuel Burkles, who's the founder of Shambhala Publishing. He's become much like Raghu, has become a mentor of mine in the last 4 years. And it's odd, both the kind of, I'm just making quick references here. So to try and work with me on me calling you the head of Be Here Now. But you kind of are.
Well, I'm the director of the foundation and everything
you're the executive director and the co-founder. Right,
yeah.
Exactly. So
wait, before we go anywhere, Jaymee, we're assuming too much. That
people know who that is.
Who is Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche?
Okay. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche was raised as a reincarnate in Tibet, born in 1939, and was the heir to a throne and a teaching position, and was recognized at a very early age as being the continuation of the Trungpa lineage of teachers in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So, and he is most notably, he came to America after the Chinese occupation of Tibet, after spending a period of time in England first, after leaving Tibet in 1959 on foot, which is, by the way, there's a book about him leaving Tibet called Born in Tibet that is the scariest book I've ever read as far as what a human being could be asked to do. And he was asked to lead about 800 people on foot out of a country that was being occupied by a huge army. And its culture was being destroyed, and the teachers were being rounded up and imprisoned or tortured or killed. And he had to choose whether to stay and protect on some level and be there for his home and all of his friends and all his family and all his students. And he was 18 years old when this happened. Had to make the choice of whether to stay and be with his mother and or be run out of the country and lead 800 people who were ready to go. Well, I think it was less at the time, but over time of them leaving Tibet, the number grew to be about 800. Mm-hmm. And it was all down to him. And, this is 1959, so there's no tools, there's barely any roads, and he was asked after his short lifespan of 18 years of just being a monastic, basically, who was recognized as this great teacher, and he had shoes to fill, certainly. Yeah. But he was in the monastic discipline part of his training, the early part of his Buddhist training. And he had to leave behind his teachers, his everything. He was asked to make this horrific choice of what to do, and he intuitively felt that it was time to go, and so he led this large group out only at night. So they had to use the moonlight as their way out of Tibet. And if they were caught during the day or anyone was seen, they'd be rounded up and the whole crew would be exposed. And so they didn't have any food or supplies, barely any. So they're having to stop and hide out in the wilderness and get close to villages and try and figure out whether or not it was safe to go down, to even go down for supplies. These kinds of choices, and the elderly are there, babies are there. There's so much that he was asked to take care of, and he was doing it only by moonlight at night. No compass or anything like that.
We're talking about the Himalayas, everybody, going through these extraordinary mountains and very, very tough conditions
in the winter. So this being, who I heard about Chogyam Trungpa after reading a Pema Chodron book, and Chogyam Trungpa is Pema Chodron's teacher, the great Buddhist author. So I heard about him kind of in the last decade or so, and he has probably been the person I've read the most books of, and has been one of these connections that I've had beyond the grave, so to speak. I have experiences of darshan, type things with his words, where I feel like I'm having direct sitting with the teacher, and what he's speaking about in the chapter day to day is what's going on in my life, as if it's like a never-ending story kind of situation. Right. So that's where all this fascination of him comes from, is that he's been somebody that I've read the most of, and now I'm deeply entrenched with a lot of his course students, and they've been guests on my podcast and are now friends and mentors. So back to Chogyam Trungpa, this story of Born in Tibet, it's all outlined in this, the choices that he had to make on a daily basis. And, we go to see movies like Indiana Jones, or, where we see these adventures. This makes Indiana Jones look like a wimp, on any given day, what Chogyam Trungpa was asked to do. So by the time he had led people close to the edge of Tibet and Nepal, a lot of people he had to leave behind. A lot of people couldn't make it any further, and he had to make these difficult choices. And a lot of people got rounded up in one of the last spots that they stayed before crossing over into Nepal, which was a huge risk in itself. So by the end of the 800 people was down to 13.
13? Yes. I didn't know that.
And they were eating their shoe leather in the end. There was no food and the freezing conditions. And it is just a miracle. After over 8 months of this kind of activity of leaving Tibet, that's how long it took. It took forever for them to leave, because they're doing it on foot and because of all the care. If you can imagine traveling with Buddhists, it's very tough decisions around, compassion. How do you leave somebody? How do you leave people behind? How do you make those kinds of decisions? So
they were left in villages, though. They weren't
villages, or yes, exactly. Or people died along the way. People were suffering. Like people were leaving Tibet already in shambles because the occupation had been going on for a few years. They'd been slowly moving in The Chinese government had been slowly taking it over. And so supplies were starting to dwindle. They were basically trying to squeeze them out from the outside borders, just strangle the country. And then they just moved in closer in 1959 and the real takeover to happen. So thinking about this historical figure, let's just say more than anything that there was a human being on earth that did this, that's, it's interesting to study that person's mind, I think, if that was all that they did. But that's at 18. Then he gets successfully into Nepal, and there was this proclamation by the founder of Tibetan Buddhism, we could say. His name's Padmasambhava, if we could even call him a he. Sort of this magical being, as there are in Hindu literature and all kinds of spiritual traditions. There's always these figures. Padmasambhava was somebody who walked from India into Tibet and single-handedly changed the whole landscape of the country. One person. Almost like how the pandemic, it was one person that could affect the whole world. One person having this COVID, changed everything. It could just spread everywhere. Well, that's what he did for Tibet. He walked it in, and it was known for being a kind of barbaric country, a sort of savagery, and more like Mongolia, so this one person changed the whole place, and he's known as Guru Rinpoche. Meaning the highest teacher, in all of Tibet. And he made this proclamation in the year 800 that it's something like, and I'm riffing here, but it's like when the iron bird flies to the land of the red man, Buddhism will flourish, or something like that. And so this journey of Chogyam Trungpa out of Tibet on an iron bird into the West, where he stopped first in England and went to Oxford, had a free education and learned English, learned our language for the first time, and then started to learn our mannerisms and started to see where we were stuck.
I mean, he spoke perfect English. Perfect English.
And he even taught English back to us. After he learned it, he saw how we were getting lazy with English. So he taught like Oxonian, kind of very proper use of the words, speaking like this, kind of thing, back to the Westerners.
Yeah,
because we got lazy. We were slurring our words and all that kind of thing. Anyway, this extraordinary being who at 18 did all that, along with having a life all those 18 years and challenges, the same that we all have of loss and, and learning things and hardship and beauty. He has this extraordinary thing, which we could have just studied him the rest of our lives and gone like, how do you do something like that? He could be on a panel on Fallon or whatever, like the rest of his life for being that guy, who did that sort of a Sully, is that the guy's name? Sullivan? The captain who landed on the water. Wasn't that Sully?
Sully.
Yeah.
Sully.
So sort of like that, it's a fascinating thing. What goes into the mind in these difficult situations and where everything turns out okay? So he learned English, studied our ways, developed the first Tibetan Buddhist center in the UK, in the West, and then in Scotland, and it's called Samye Ling. And then and by the way, I didn't know the guy, I haven't been to Samye Ling. I haven't done any of this. This is all from the books and from getting to know his posse or whatever, his inner core, and having this podcast that I have where I really dive in deep with the people and get to know them. I've learned all this, and it's like I can almost see it. I know it so well, and I want to say as a advertisement for reading, still for picking up a book and holding an analog thing in your hands and taking the time. Also, I think a lot of people are driven. They think they're staying out of reading because they want to do it at their pace, but they're usually cramming in something else while they're reading, like jogging or whatever it is.
Netflix.
Right, right. So I'm a fan of reading his books really slow. I'll read like a page and then I meditate. So I've done that for years now, and I've picked up all this from that and documentaries and all that stuff. So I'm one of those people that's your guru, Maharaji, and Samuel Burkel's guru, Chogyam Trungpa. And then I have living guru myself, Lama Lanong. But those three are my gurus. That's who I see.
You're
of them,
covered.
yeah,
You are covered. Yeah?
Between Maharaji and Chogyam Trungpa, I'm covered. Those two together, it's really incredible.
So let me
go ahead.
Tell this a little continuation of the story. He came to the West and, of course, started teaching, as that was his dharmic responsibility. And he had as Jaymee's been speaking to his books, which are phenomenal characterizations in a way that we in the West could understand the ancient Tibetan teachings, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, in a very general way.
He thought that in order for Buddhism to survive and to actually do well here in the West, we had to strip it of the robes and its credentials.
Right.
And he needed to get down with us and
he
look
wore
like us.
Western clothes and he wore suits and ties, and you see him in pictures with Karmapa or Khyentse Rinpoche. I mean, it's just amazing. So he came and he started teaching, and when we came back from India, meaning Ram Dass, myself, and others, and after Maharaji left, we had, my family had a farm on the border of Quebec and Vermont, right? So he had what was called, now it's called Karma-choling, I believe. And
Tail of the tiger.
Tail of the tiger, thank you. We used to go and hang out with him on a weekend where he's giving teachings.
Wow. Oh, man. That is amazing.
He loved jiving us, mostly Ram Dass. He called us, the Lightened Lovers are here. Wow.
I've heard about that.
Yeah.
There's a famous story of him ashing on Ram Dass's head, right?
Yep. We were there. He started talking about Don Juan, Carlos Castaneda's books. And he's asking Ram Dass what he thought, and nothing much came of that. It kind of was a weird moment, actually. But then he started talking about responsibility in general, being on the path, being who you are. There's a responsibility, Ram Dass, he said. And Ram Dass said, well, responsibility. My guru is responsible. That's how. And then Trungpa said, well, come on up here. We'll talk about it. Maybe you can answer some questions and so on. It's on film. This is available on film. I'm assuming that we have it in our archive. But
I have seen it where Ram Dass is like, his eyes, he's like just kind of like, it's rare to see Ram Dass in this awe or sort of like a humbled, because or I don't know
in the headlights.
Yes, exactly. That's what it looked like.
Well, yeah, because he didn't want, this wasn't his gig, so to speak, and he didn't want to be. And then Trumpa's talking, and that's when, Trungpa smoked cigarettes, drank sake during the whole talk, okay?
Yep.
And didn't lose track of anything in terms of the wisdom that was coming out of his mouth, although, he might start slurring a little bit. And then Ram Dass kind of started meditating, and Trungpa tipped some ashes on top of that of his bald head. And that was a famous thing, and he laughed, and everybody had a good time about it. So it was interesting, that we would see him. Not every week or anything, from time to time, then when he would have something or other. And I personally remember one moment out of all of the moments, and that was we were in Boston at the McClellan's house, who were very much in, it was Ram Dass's boss when he was at Harvard and so
That's right.
on. And they were really good friends. Anyhow, there was some kind of gathering there, and we were all going around the table and putting food on plates like that, or just standing there eating. And Trungpa was right across the table from me in that moment. And I don't know if I knew he was there, but I was busy doing what I was doing. And then, you know how you look up and suddenly you catch the eye of a person? Mm-hmm. And then, there's a connection. Well, that happened.
Wow.
But I can tell you that moment is an indelible moment beyond any of the trappings of Trungpa Rinpoche or Raghu, Markus, any of that.
Wow, one of
those. Just that moment of complete connection, interconnection. So,
wow, amazing.
Yeah, and so through the years, just like you, that was, very much a favorite in terms of the kind of books that I was looking for and the ways in which I wanted to get teachings. Of course, I had the good fortune to actually be in physical presence on several occasions when he was doing that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So,
but as long as I've known you, I didn't know
really?
that you had those. Yeah, especially that moment at the table, the indelible moment. I didn't know about.
Ineffable moment, like
I thought, it was like a
psychedelic trip. But everybody who's listening to this, we have talked. I have actually. There's probably I think a really good podcast that I did with David Silver, Jaymee. You might want to listen to.
Sure.
Early on about us talking about Trungpa. But everybody out there, of course, there was a lot of controversy.
Sure.
Controversy around his drinking.
Yeah.
And controversy around his community, where there was a lot. He initiated, shall we say, free love kind of atmosphere. I mean, I can't.
Yeah.
It's another way to say that. Some people who were angry, they would say it in a horrible way.
Yeah.
And other people who saw it as crazy wisdom, which is a Tibetan thing, would say, yeah, that's a good excuse to have some fun,
right.
That kind of thing. So,
no, completely.
But it was open. It was open, and it really... Many people got discouraged, shall we say, and upset, and other people did not. They accepted it as part of the teaching.
Yeah, from what I understand, even in the promiscuous nature of his tantric activity, which, his whole thing was a form of Buddhism that's the tantric tradition is indulging in the senses. And it's where you've done a certain amount of work structurally on your Buddhist skeleton that you can indulge in the senses without losing yourself to them. And that was what he embodied mostly as a path while in America. And I don't think that he was necessarily teaching anybody else to do this, though he was at this was just something that he did, but he never lied about it. This is a big deal, and you never hear these stories about, you hear plenty of stories about people having promiscuous cults and all this kind of stuff, but usually there was an element of deception and lying that went on where there was dishonesty. And from what I understand, he was always upfront and honest and never pushed himself on anyone. It's just that there was an environment that this is where Lady Diana Mukpo, his wife, comes into play because she was a Westerner. They married.
Did you talk to her about this at all? I
did. I talked to her. I have so many incredible stories, but a lot of them can be found in her book, Dragon Thunder. On Shambhala Publications, which I read before interviewing her, and I was blown away by. And let's just say that her and Chogyam Trungpa had, before what would be defined as an open relationship, they had an open relationship. And it was one that, by the end of this story, or towards the end of this story, Chogyam Trungpa's wife and her partner have a bedroom like upstairs. Chogyam Trungpa has a bedroom downstairs. She's had a child. She's had multiple children, and now at a certain point, Chogyam Trungpa and her lover we're trying to figure out who the father is, but lovingly next to each other over a crib, looking in, oh yeah, he has my features. Do you think he's mine? This kind of loving environment they had. They had a relationship where everything was open. There was no dishonesty, and there was acceptance around all of this. Deception usually plays into the poison that we hear about in all these traditions. It's somebody lying or being asked to hold in information. So, fortunately, that was not the case with Chogyam Trungpa from all the students that I've met. But from having a life now myself on social media and having a bit of a uptick in activity lately in my show's reach, I noticed that I put out a podcast with my guru and I riffing and having fun. And I was talking to him about time, and he makes this joke about time's only a couple hundred years old. The invention of clocks is where, like, he was making a joke, and I'm laughing. People don't know this kind of a relationship. They don't know that, like, somebody who's a teacher can have a student, and they can be in laughter. And it's just been all these misinterpretations of what's going on here. Like I'm offending the teacher or something like that. And people look into and project, just like Bob Dylan knew this. He knew this about the people, is that they just always are going to project what they think they see onto everything. And so in this particular tradition, if you do the investigation like I have, and I'm somebody that believes in no harm, believes in absolutely abstaining from anything that's deceptive, dishonest, or that's hurtful, any one-upmanship. I'm not a fan. And that I've thoroughly vetted this community and read the books and gotten in there with a lot of the students and studied what his teachings are, most importantly. Put that all together, and what I find is somebody that was very upfront and honest, but there was a world full of projections around what was going on there.
Yeah, but let's also push back a little bit, because I think the reality is it's all about whatever that individual is stuck on in the subtlest of way, attachment, clinging,
right,
in the very subtlest of ways that we could not identify, being that we are not in the moment complete. Right. So, many people can be correct in saying, this is using Tantra as a way to legitimize this kind of behavior. So that is what happened. So,
and that's a possible projection also, that's somebody using their mind. I'm not saying that it wasn't there, but I'm also saying, Pema Chodron, who has an incredible story herself. And it's one that I understand.
Great teacher, everybody. We should put, when we do the notes in the podcast, we shall link up Pema Chodron. She actually has a book that's fairly new, I think the last year or so.
Yeah, How We Live is How We Die.
Yeah.
And then, that's an incredible one. But she is somebody that I came into this world studying, and she was a school teacher, and her life, the bottom of her life kind of fell out when she heard that her husband was cheating on her and leaving her, and she was left with the responsibility of 3 children. And this is at a time where she had no real spiritual connection necessarily. And she, instead of turning to drugs and alcohol or excess for whatever reason, she went out kind of spiritual shopping. And she had the extraordinary fortune to run into Chogyam Trungpa when he was passing through a town or something like that. And she took up this path. I really feel like I trust her. And she says, I can't find a party line that says that all of his behavior was right. And I can't also say that it was wrong.
She said?
She says that. In the documentary Crazy Wisdom, she says that. Now, this is what, to spin this into a daily teaching outside of Chogyam Trungpa for a second. this is what I do now with all situations is I look at things at least 3 times, 3 different ways. I want to find at least 3 ways that I can see any situation that comes my way. Because the first way is going to be my life story. I'm going to see it through the lens of my personal narratives and how this benefits or doesn't benefit me, or the authority. I become an authority on this from my life story. That's not good enough because it's a very relative experience, and that's not everyone's experience. So I look
relative.
at it. Only relative. So I look at it. Okay, well, how else can I see this? And I start using my imagination. I go like, well, I guess it could be this also, or maybe it's nothing, or maybe, all that. And I do that, and there's this kind of dust cloud in my mind that won't let me fixate on one thing, and it stays open, my mind. And so that's kind of this not being able to tell if something's right or wrong is really a good place to be. I know it's not everybody's trying to find out what's the most safe thing to do and what's the best for all and all this, but we're using our personal narratives to do that. And not everything that's happened to us has been true. It's just the way that we formulate it. So I like to hang out in this dust cloud now because it doesn't allow me to fix on one thing, and it keeps my mind open to maybe, maybe not.
Mm-hmm. That's
not
number
very comforting.
2. Where's number 3? What's the third way?
What's the oh, well, no, I mean, no, I just mean the third way would be
perspective. What's the other perspective?
What's the other perspective? Well, I made up a thing anyway. I mean, I made up this scenario. Let's just say, okay, how about this? Let me see a recent example of interpretation. And I'm going to stay out of headline news. Okay, here we go. Let's do Lady Diana Mukpo just passed away.
Right.
And she was Chogyam Trungpa's wife for the 17 years that he was alive in the West. I think she was probably 18 years or something like that before he passed away. He did die of alcohol-related illness at a very young age, at 47. I'm 48, so I've outlived him, and it's very weird to be alive 1 year past his life. But anyway, I digress. She passed away, and immediately I went into tears. I got one line from Sam Burkles, founder of Shambhala Publications, who published many of Chogyam Trungpa's books, the bulk of them. And I got a text from him, and it said, Lady Diana passed away this morning. One line, that's it. I start to cry. I cry for the normal reasons one cries. The immediate thought of the ramifications of this loss, the sadness around not having another chance to say something to her. I feel all that in a moment. And then I'm immediately greeted with how long she lived, all of the accomplishments that she made in this lifetime, that she studied the way out of the notion of death alongside Chogyam Trungpa. The idea that death is an idea that we all have about the end of a body. We call it death, and it's so final. And so I'm met both with my grief and the teachings, and I can't settle. So my tears disappear, but I kind of stay in this half and half, this Arnold Palmer emotionally sort of like half of me is grieving, but the other half knows a version of a truth that exists beyond her body.
Ram Dass called it living on 2 planes of consciousness at the same time. Yeah.
Exactly.
By the way, I want to say one other thing. When we started this podcast, I said something, Jaymee and I are living in Ojai. And isn't that wonderful? But that wasn't true. Jaymee is really living in the middle of Manhattan right now and doing this podcast. Okay. So everything you hear is from 42nd Street. Okay, and Broadway.
He's joking because I live on a major thoroughfare in Ojai, so it sounds like I live in New York. You know, that's the joke on us, is that we checked out this apartment 8 years ago after business hours, and it seemed like a really quiet place.
Oh God!
But the landlords are incredible people, and we've gotten people who moved in next door who are Ram Dass fans, who we've been able to take to kirtan at your house. And you know, and it's also this thing that we're talking about right here, this Arnold Palmer of, you know, here I am living in Ojai in this beautiful situation, but I'm living on a busy street, you know, and so I could go complain about that and live in that complaint.
To the podcast gods.
Right.
You should. So, all right, fast forward from where we were in this conversation about Trungpa.
Yeah.
So Ram Dass in those years in the 70s got a lot, especially he did this thing with Trungpa at Naropa in 74. That was a huge, huge event that started Naropa University.
But you weren't there, right?
I did not go there that summer.
Nor did Sam Burkles. You guys were both not
I
there.
had a baby, so that's why I didn't go.
Oh, that's your excuse. Okay.
Yeah, right. But what happened is that pushback that I was mentioning before, that was happening to Ram Dass by many, many people. Like, why are you promoting this guy? Because Ram Dass by then, you know, sold gazillions of Be Here Nows, and so he was really well known. And so they were really mad at him.
Is that Maharaji messing with him a little bit? You know how he told him not to talk about him? He's like, do whatever you do, don't talk about me when you go back to the States. And then he did, and he defied that. And we're all here because he defied it, you know? So is the reverberations of that, like where he's still getting messed with around this book, could that be the play of Maharaji just from beyond?
I haven't the slightest idea.
At least you don't know. Sometimes you know things.
Yeah. No. I mean, there's no way of knowing that. I mean, absolutely. I mean, as far as the only thing that counts that I know is that Ram Dass took everything, including this pushback on Trungpa and everything, as, okay, this is wonderful. Another way in which I can integrate and transform, first transform and then integrate into the true self. I mean, as a general thing, he knew he was living that. So there wasn't anything that wasn't okay.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, but what I'm trying to say is, and Jaymee and I talked about this before we got on, we have this amazing, I don't know, it might have been a radio interview. I am not sure. Or just part of it, he was somewhere and somebody asked him about it. And he gave an amazing talk about, particularly it was, of course, about Trungpa, but in a much broader sense, it was about, well, like what you're saying, how we project all of our fears, all of our neurotic stuff into every situation, unless we have transformed the polarity that's inside ourselves. Where everybody talks about polarity right now, what's going on in our world. Of course, that's true, but it all stems from the polarity inside ourselves, where we are not living the interconnection.
Polarity is mind.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's mind. That's the only place that polarity exists.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do, I thought about this, Jaymee. I'll find this talk. It's actually in one of the, I think I put it in a Ram Dass Here and Now podcast episode. So we'll link up to that episode for people in the show notes. So it's quite amazing, I must say. Quite amazing.
Excellent. Yeah. And what is it again, exactly the specific talk? It's Ram Dass speaking about
directly about the pushback that he was getting.
That Trungpa was getting.
No, No,
that Ram Dass was getting.
Yeah, the Trungpa, yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, that
sure.
Ram Dass was getting from people, why are you promoting this guy? Why are you saying this guy is great?
Right.
When look what he's doing.
Right. Gotcha.
So it was like
So
that.
Ram Dass speaks to that.
Ram Dass speaks directly to that in a way that's very enlightening on more than one level.
Sure. That's excellent. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, so we'll do that.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, that is a really incredible, like what you said about Ram Dass. He is the person, him and my mother, who, you and I have talked about her before, and you become friends with her as well. And she was Christian Scientist, and so she was brought up with this belief that God is love, and this unconditional love. The notion of unconditional love is that it's something that goes beyond our ideas of the imperfection of the world, and there's perfection in all things, and so, but Ram Dass is really the person who actively showed me the blueprint, I feel like, of how to turn any negative situation into something beautiful or an opportunity. Even
not necessarily beautiful. Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. Well, no, I mean, for me, I think I would use the word beautiful. Actually, I'm sure of that, because I can turn the most difficult thing into something beautiful because I'm in charge of my mind, and so we can, like you said, everyone's projecting. Maybe this is just me projecting, but I've learned, my parents' house burned down since you and I last podcasted. They lost their house in the Altadena fire
earlier this year. And
when that happened, we live here in Ohio. It's about 100 miles away from Altadena. While that was going on, and the bulk of the crazy winds had happened here in Southern California, and there was a fear around the winds the night before. I woke up the next day and most of LA was on fire. And I had this feeling like, you have to go. You have to go to Altadena. And your hometown is burning up, and you have to go be there. And no matter what's on your schedule today, just get in the car and go. And I'm not an impulsive person anymore. I like taking my time with things. I like taking my time picking out apples at the grocery store. I'll build 20 extra minutes into my grocery store time ahead of time just so I don't have to rush. That's how I'm doing my life these days. That's like my wealth, is that I don't have riches or anything like that, but I've bought myself the ability to take my time driving places and, and all that. Get settled somewhere. Yeah, it's wonderful. So this was like, go now, go. So I got in the car and I drove down, and I got to my father just in time. They had been evacuated, and he said, I want to go to the house. I want to see if it's okay. So we drove up to the house, and as we were driving up, his was the only house on the block that was burning.
Oh,
and
shit. Really?
I pulled up as his house is completely in flames, and I'm pulling up with my father, who I've been on an extraordinary life journey with, of love. And, he had to watch me grow up, and I was not, I was a runaway from home and all this stuff. I was a drug addict, and, we've been through an extraordinary journey together. Mm-hmm. And driving up with my father at that moment while his house is in flames, right? The one story is, what are they going to do? Oh my gosh, the worry. None of that was there. Because of my spiritual practice and because of studying the wisdom that I've gotten from Ram Dass and Chogyam Trungpa and my guru and many sources, Christ, Hanuman, all the stories. In this moment, I felt like the luckiest person on the planet. Why? Because I knew that I could be there with my father in that moment and actually not need anything from him. Just really be there with him for whatever he needed. And I sat on the grass with him across the street from his house, and we watched his house go up in flames. And all of his possessions.
Told me. My God.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there with him, and I just feel so lucky to be alive and to be there with him, because I know that we are out of the house, and that's the most important thing. Now they say that, people say that, they go like, oh, well, at least you're okay. But this was abundantly clear when the firefighters, they called me over and they said, we were able to rescue just a few things. We were in there and we almost lost our lives saving the house. The roof almost caved in while they were in there. And they said, but before we got out, we were able to grab some photos from the mantle. And they took me over to this stack of photos. And it's my children, my brother's children and his family, just family photos of all of us.
Wow.
And it's just stacks, and it's there on the grass while the house is completely engulfed, like something out of a movie, just raging fire. I'm feet away from it. And I look down at the photos and I immediately start crying because it was like God was saying, look, your wealth is really still here. Like everyone made it out alive. There's a chance to live another day. The most important thing isn't in there. It's never been in there. It's with you. And so I've been able to be somebody since that's helped my parents around that notion and helped them in their grief because it's a huge loss from them. It was really everything, And this is all because of the teachings. I'm not thinking about myself. These are all things that they feel guilt about not being able to hand down to me when they pass away. It's like they were saving all this stuff. I never once thought of that when I went over to their house. Like, oh, this will be mine someday. That's crazy. But people think that way, and God bless them, the inheritance and all that. But in this case, because I hadn't been fixated on what's mine in this life beyond my own goodness, I could really be there for my dad and my mom in that moment and guide them through and have them smile within 24 hours, which is so rare,
Yeah.
So anyway, this is all the dust cloud, as I was saying, it's not being able to settle on this being a tragedy, but seeing also the beauty that we're all alive. We made it out alive. That's this example, I guess, of seeing it at least.
Yeah. Two planes of consciousness at the same time. Yeah, right. Absolutely. I wanted to bring up another Rinpoche that I love, that he wrote a book with a good friend, Danny Goleman. Do you know Tsokni Rinpoche?
How do you spell it?
T. T.
That's just a Buddhist joke.
Oh, really? It is?
No, but I thought it'd be a good one. Oh, when somebody says a complicated Rinpoche's name. Oh, yeah, how do you spell that?
This is easy. Tsokni, Tsoknyi. He did a book with Daniel Goleman, Why We Meditate, that I urge everybody to get a copy.
Yeah.
And we'll put that in the show notes. But let me I thought before, we have enough time here to... he brings up, so we've been talking about a lot of stuff, from around what Trungpa represented, what happened with Diana Mukpo and her passing, and Ram Dass's relationship with Trungpa and so on. All of it is based on, okay, what are we really talking about here when we are projecting? So we are projecting from our I.
Right.
That thing there, right?
Yes.
And Ram Dass did a wonderful job helping moving people out of that I to the center of their chest, to that wonderful, warm place of loving awareness, right?
Right.
So Tsokni Rinpoche, here, I'll just read a little. He would they were talking about research on how pursuing meditation lessens our ego grasping and virtually zero on selflessness, what we have been speaking to. And you know what Tsokni called it? The mere I. I love that so much.
Now, the M-E-R... The M-E-R-E,
yeah.
The mere I, just the small, the
well,
simple,
here's
small
the explanation.
I. Okay.
He sees this as the healthiest, quote unquote, I, where we hold our sense of self lightly, as we do every other thought or emotion.
Yeah.
We recognize our uniqueness and whatever value there may be in, say, our social I, but see it all as a mere display, like of a reflection in a mirror. We can be playful or serious as the moment calls for, because we are not limited by neediness or the need to defend some sense of ourselves. We are completely available to the needs of the other person.
Yes.
I mean, that is so effing wise.
Yeah. It is. That's a goal of mine is, within the Bodhisattva, I've taken the Bodhisattva vow, which is kind of weird because it's like you're speaking up for all your future incarnations, going like, hey guys, we're going to just keep coming back here until all beings are free. But the notion of the Bodhisattva is somebody who puts others in front of themselves, more important than themselves. And I feel like the only way that I've learned how to really be there with people is to focus on myself and to clear out some of the clutter of my own experience. And that then I can be really, truly available. A lot of people get into conversations these days and they're in healing conversations, but they're just waiting for their chance to speak. Each person is, just interrupting each other and kind of like, oh, that reminds me of my story and all that. And everybody's talking at the same time, like the Tom Waits song, So that's not healing to me. That's not healing conversation. That's competition. The only way that I've really been able to be a deep listener in my spiritual mentorship sessions and trauma counseling, and this, which I've done now for a decade, is by working on my life story. And that could look selfish at the start because you're focusing on yourself and you're looking inward and all that. But I feel like within the Bodhisattva thing, I'm trying to find this perfect balance of being able to not just care for other or care for self, but to have the two be one. So now I kind of practice seeing everyone as myself and everything as myself, including the little bug that's in the sink, when I'm about to get in the shower and I'm like, I gotta take care of this bug because that bug is me. Do I want to be squashed today? Do I want to be left behind if I'm found in a situation like this? Or do I want some help? That's the way I think about things, is seeing everybody or everything as myself.
Very good, as I say in India. Very good.
I love it when you say that.
I think, I do think we have to watch for the famous byword of our era, spiritual bypass.
Right.
That is, and now that's becoming, that's a bypass on its own.
I know, it is. You're right. You're right. People are using that thing to get out of things.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Just the term.
But certainly mindfulness in really being able to have the perspective that, and that's why Ram Dass did the whole thing on loving awareness, because from that place, you're not judging, you're not talking shit to yourself, you're not projecting. And that's not, you just flip into this. That's work of sitting, a lot of practice to get to a point where you are seeing transparently the stuff that makes you a separate I.
Right.
And
that's right.
And getting to Tsokne's mirror eye, that's just getting to a place where that can happen, where you can transform that separation.
That's right.
So, but
do you like that? Can I do a quote? I want to do an Einstein quote. You want to sing a song? No, I want to do an Einstein quote.
Okay, I love it. I just saw it. Can you believe this? Because we're also working on Ram Dass's personal library. In his personal library is a picture of his dad and Einstein.
I've seen that picture in a documentary, though. I swear, it's at a railway association meeting, wasn't it? I think it was. Where
I don't remember the background on it. I just saw it yesterday.
It's a black and white. Yeah, it's an amazing photo.
Yeah.
Okay, this is something Einstein said.
Yeah.
A human being is a part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. End quote.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Optical delusion of consciousness.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been said a lot around here, and Ram Dass, has said it in so many different ways, but it's nice to hear the person who we revere as one of the smartest people talking about compassion as being the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the way that, His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, has, put his monks into Emory in Atlanta, where they're studying, making real what they have known for thousands of years, or maybe not, whatever it is, a long time, through their practice, through their discriminating wisdom, what science is proving out now, and bringing those things together. This has been his mission. And the way that that's happening is pretty extraordinary.
Science and spirituality are holding hands, mostly in the ways of sort of seeing that everything isn't everything. Like that's something that science is now saying that a lot of things that people of faith have been saying, And I always like to joke around with atheists, about their devotion, because they're like so devoted, to the idea of there being nothing, that I don't think we have that little in common.
Bob Thurman really addresses that perfectly.
Oh, does he?
Nothing.
Really?
Nothing? What do you mean? Nothing? What's not? Nothing is a nothing. It's not a nothing.
Yeah, it's something. Yeah, exactly. But, the fact that one of my favorite things about humility, a way to say it is just, a way of looking at it is being right-sized, not being less than, not being small. A lot of people call humility sort of being self-deprecating. They go like, oh, no, I'm not good. I'm terrible. No, I'm just a clumsy this or that, But that's like a bit of self-deprecation. Right-sized is just kind of really knowing where you are at. Not thinking you're more or less, but just being right-sized in your lane. Even the Queen of England can be humble because she was born to be the queen, and the red carpet is there. That's all a part of her life story. And she's not trying to be more than that or less. She's just showing up for that. Probably a weird example, but still.
Well, didn't she pass?
Okay, right. She passed away. Time. Come on.
Okay, you're right. Yeah.
Doesn't exist. So the object that I think about with this humility is, it was pointed out to me at one point that there are more stars in the sky than there are grains of sand on all the beaches combined in the world. But there are more atoms in a single grain of sand than there are stars in the sky. So I want to be that grain of sand where it's essential and everything is in it, but it's small and it's among all the others. And that's just the perfect place for me to hang out.
I'll take you to the beach tomorrow.
It is Saturday. You take your walk.
That's when we go to the beach. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with me, though.
Absolutely. And I do want to just say, we didn't really make it super clear, but Lady Diana Mukpo, Chogyam Trungpa's wife and longtime best friend, and who wrote this book, Dragon Thunder, passed away. And it's both a time of mourning and a time of also the great accomplishment. She has passed on, and we have this picture of her. And Chogyam Trungpa down on our altar right now that Lacey
Do you have
printed.
it there?
No. I mean, it's just right downstairs, but you'd have to wait a second. But I have this tiny picture of them together, and today looking at that as we were doing arti, and feeding our altars and all that, I looked at them together, and there's a bit of joy there of thinking of that they're reunited in some way, you know?
Right.
So there's the two ways of looking at things. She's passed away and they're both dead, and we can be going, oh, they're dead, but they're also maybe together, or at least redispersed into the universe.
Yeah.
At the very least.
Ram Ram.
Ram Ram, brother. Thanks so much.
Ram Ram, Satya He, Satya Bol, Satya He. You know, that's what they do. And they take people to be burned in Benares.
Oh, wow.
Ram, Satya is the truth, is reality. Satya Bol, chant that out. Satya He. Truth is. The truth is. Satya Bol, Satya He. Yeah.
God, I never knew what you were saying all those times that you say that.
Yeah.
How do you know it had to do with death?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Riding through the streets of Benares with the beer, people walking, carrying it. So
you guys are the Deathmeisters.
we are.
Well, you guys have allowed me to feel a lot more comfortable about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, watch
Your work on Earth, and that's a good legacy.
You know what Trungpa Rinpoche, will end with this, said to one of his close students one day. It was around Naropa time.
Yeah.
He said, one day they'll be dropping like flies all around you.
Wow. I know a lot of people feel that way, right? No
Over the
kidding.
next, 10, 15 years, yeah.
Totally.
Yes. Not you.
Well, tell people, not me. I hope not. But you know what? That's the funny thing about it, too.
That's why everybody should definitely think about, I'm not going to wait till I'm 60, 70, 80, whatever, to practice how to die.
Yeah.
It's how it's during your life that you can do these practices, because how you die is it's just elemental to how you live every day.
That's
with comfort around.
Your mind goes with you. It goes with you. It's just that it doesn't leave you. Your mind is there to tell you how things are going or not. You know, it's not going to just be okay in the future. We have to practice.
Yeah, you do. But what I'm trying to say is that what you can do, what an individual can do early on, once you realize there is a path and you start treading it one way or the other, with whatever practices, whatever people you find, or where they find you, whatever, is getting friendly or friendlier with impermanence, or you could call it the mystery.
Right.
And here's an ad right now. In October, everybody, we are going to be putting out a course with Ram Dass and others, Jack and others, and it's called Walking Each Other Home.
Nice.
And what it is investigations around grief, around sickness, around the collective that we use to support each other, with all sorts of fantastic teachers. So just take a look at ramdas.org and make sure your email is into the list that you can join there. So you'll get newsletters that'll announce all of this stuff and links and all kinds of cool,
including kirtans that happen once a month. You can sign up for those too, right?
No,
Just kidding. But hey, you know what? My fun way of practicing death today was going out to lunch with you. And I'll tell you why.
That's not very encouraging on my part.
No, it is actually. By the end, you'll think it is, I think. Because as I was approaching the restaurant, I was going, you should buy Raghu lunch. I mean, he's older than you and he's going to die before you. And I was going, wait a minute. No, you don't know that. Maybe he should buy you lunch because you never know. And that's me being in on the joke of not knowing whether or not I'm going to die. And that's a little investment or a little deposit in the notion of impermanence.
Anything can happen. Any moment, anything. So it's good to get prepared.
This could be my last recording, everyone. So
okay, well, let's not get too dramatic here. This is the last. By the way, this is the last recording from Central Station in New York. Okay. We are never doing this again. Okay.
Hey, you know what? There's a Ram Dass meditation out there where he's doing a guided meditation next to traffic.
Yeah, it's in New York.
I always think about that.
It's right there at the Sculpture Studio in New York. Yeah.
Well, that's where I am.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thanks again.
All right.
And we'll put all sorts of stuff in the show notes, and including a link to Jaymee and the stuff that he's doing. Okay?
Okay, wonderful. Thanks so much for having me, Raghu.
All right.
Raghu.
Ram Ram.
Raghu.
Raghu. Ram Ram.